Hey, Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer, and we're ready to talk some Raider football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football, especially with Raider Ladybug and T3. Hey, and you know what? There's a lot to talk about. That was a great draft. A little bit of a head scratcher at first when we went wide receiver at 80 and 81, but now
I loved it.
So
loved it.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. All right. Today on the show, we are bringing you an in-depth look at the players we picked up in the draft. T3 Raider Facts is joining us again to help us evaluate this class of new rookies. Welcome, T3. Thanks for coming on the show with us again.
Good evening, Heidi. Good evening, Homer. I am ready to get started. Let's light this candle.
Hey, and T3, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for calling in. You've been a strong supporter of this podcast for a while now, so it's nice to have you on. And Raider Nation, don't forget that you can call at 904-701-8667 and leave a voicemail too. And you know what? If you're good enough, right, you'll be on the show. You can also email us at theonlynationpodcast@gmail.com. And make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at OnlyNationPod and subscribe to the Only Nation Podcast on YouTube. So be sure to like and subscribe on all your favorite social media accounts and podcasting apps. And don't forget to send us a message with your name and address, and we'll get a free sticker sent out to you.
Yes, you'll get a free sticker sent out to you from Homer and Heidi. And possibly T3, who may be on the show a little bit more often than he was a month ago.
I am here.
Yeah, we might just be starting up a new segment, a T3's own segment. Possibly. We'll see how today goes.
We'll see what everybody thinks.
Yeah. Covering the latest Raiders news, there, outside of the draft, really isn't a whole lot. There were a couple of things, though, that came to fruition. In financial news, this is pretty cool. The Raiders have scored so many new corporate partnerships that the Raiders are projected to go from 32nd in the league in annual partnership commitment revenues to as high as in the top 3. And that's over the course of, 2 years? Allegiant Stadium.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Allegiant Stadium business partners include the San Manuel Casino, the stadium naming rights partner with Allegiant Air, and Las Vegas Ford dealers. The Raiders' corporate business partnerships generated more than $100 million in business revenues, with the average founding partner multi-year deal in the $30 million ballpark range. That's pretty good. We're doing pretty good financially.
Hey, Heidi, can I just give a quick shout out to all the corporate sponsors? Because I know this is a really tough time economically for a lot of us. And to have that much corporate support for the Raiders coming into a new city, a new venue, I just got to take my hat off and just salute all the corporate sponsors and people that are behind the Raiders just from day one.
Absolutely. And I think Alan Snell. I think Alan Snell at lvsportsbiz.com with this information. It's pretty cool to hear. What were you saying, Homer?
No, yeah. It goes back to what we were talking about, Mark Davis building his own legacy. For a while, Al Davis was selling off shares, right? Maintaining 51% so he wouldn't lose the team, but he had to get money to sign players. And a lot of teams are like, or a lot of fans are out there saying that we don't have the money. We're a broke team, and Mark Davis needs to sell the team, because he doesn't have the money to run the team. But, he's making the money now. And that's part of rebuilding the Raider legacy overall, right? Getting us back to the winning ways. You got to have the cash flow. You got to have a decent stadium, and you got to win. So he's got 2 out of the 3. So good for Mark Davis.
I went from last in the league to the top 3 in 2 or 3 years. That's very impressive.
Remember all the people saying that. Yeah, remember all the people saying that he couldn't. He wasn't a good businessman. He's making money now.
Told you he's smarter than people give him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and there was just one other small piece of Raiders news. We had a draft this past weekend, and
oh yeah,
yeah, It was supposed to have taken place in Las Vegas. But then this nasty virus took over the world, and it got canceled. Well, guess what? We're getting the draft back in 2022, which is the year that I said we would probably be getting it back earlier on this show.
Oh,
Just
toot
letting
your
you
own
know.
horn, why don't you?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
So,
sure,
yeah.
why not?
Raider Nation, the draft is coming to Vegas.
Actually, Goodell announced it was coming back in 2020.
Man, you know he had to feel ridiculous turning around and talking to that TV, you know. Oh, God.
Oh my gosh, did you guys see the pictures or the video feed of Bill Belichick's dog sitting in his chair?
No.
I ordered a t-shirt yesterday.
Oh, my God.
It's from RotoWear. And one side has Tom Brady and Gronk pointing at each other like that, you know, what is it, Smudge the cat? Karen and Smudge the cat pointing at the dog and where Belichick is supposed to be. And it says something like, you know, like the dynasty has fallen or something.
Oh, you're going to see those T-shirts and banners all over the place this year.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I was like, I know exactly where I'm wearing this for the first time. Henry at Letty's restaurant, when I get that shirt, I'm wearing it for the first time for you. Ha 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 ha. Okay. On to something serious.
I love podcasting with you.
Can you tell I had an ice cream sandwich just before we started?
I can tell that.
Don't give her any more sugar.
And it wasn't even a Monster.
She's overcoming an ice cream headache.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into this draft thing that we just had. Round 1, pick number 12. Who do we go with? My second choice in receiver.
Henry Ruggs.
Henry Ruggs III.
Oh, here we go. Now we're going to have to hear it.
All right. Well, I just said that I liked his hands and his drop rate. That's all.
Hey, you called it. I knew. I mean, that was a good call. For me, I just think he's a little too small. 5'11", you know. I know that there's other similar receivers, but, you know, later in the draft, we got the big wide receiver that I wanted. So, you know, his speed instantly reminded me of what the Raiders had in the 70s with Fred Biletnikoff. You know, that would be Fred Biletnikoff. That would be Renfro, right? The short-handed guy. Mm-hmm. And then you have Ruggs, which would be like a Cliff Branch, super fast guy, stretch the field. And I think that's, you know, exactly what Gruden wanted to do, you know, is bring back that Al Davis style of, you know, Raider football. And hopefully this works out.
I would like to point out that Ruggs is an inch taller than AB. All right, go for it.
Now, when we get ready to announce the pick, I really wanted Judy. I really expected them to announce CeeDee Lamb. So when they announced Ruggs, I was surprised, but I wasn't really shocked because now you've got one of the fastest players in college football. He explodes off the line of scrimmage. He instantly challenges both vertically, and he creates separation on underneath routes too. He's got impressive balance. He's got change of direction. And for a player with that explosive straight line speed, to be able to snap out of breaks and give the quarterback wide open passing lanes, that is just awesome. And he tracks the ball over either shoulder. And again, I've heard a lot of comparisons between him and Darius Hayward-Bay, but those comparisons don't even wash because this guy has just got so many catching techniques and traits that Darius Hayward-Bay never had.
Yeah, he's got a 42-inch vertical jump. Have either of you guys seen his high school basketball highlight?
Oh, yeah.
No.
That is crazy. You got to look it up, Homer. His high school basketball highlights. If I could fly like Mike. Dude. He was incredible.
I saw one where he did a dunk and actually had the ball go through his legs and then dunked it.
Yeah. And he was doing it in high school. I have no problem with sending him up for a contested catch at all. Because he will come down with it.
Tyreek Hill is no longer the fastest receiver in the league.
What was Hill's 40?
He was a 4.35, I think.
Okay. So he did outdo him just a little bit.
I mean, I like that. Especially the 2.4% drop rate.
Yeah, I like his hands. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with having two receivers with reliable hands.
Well, yeah. Well, another thing is like one thing that I liked, the number. There were some numbers being thrown around out there. 20 yards and under, right? Ruggs was an elite wide receiver, with being able to get the ball quickly to him, and then he can run past people, and he's a deep ball threat, big play threat. I like that, right? Because Derek Carr also has some similar numbers where he throws the ball well within 20 yards. And so I think that's a good little combination, like it asked, that picture asked, if there was the comparison asked if there was a perfect connection for him, or if it was a perfect fit for them. And I'm hoping so, because anybody, you want Derek Carr to be able to throw the ball and just, Ruggs go and catch it. But it's all the underneath stuff that, we really need to, because that's Gruden's West Coast offense. So if he can get that ball, if you can get the ball to him quickly and he can run past people, that's great. I love that.
Right. And I think he's the perfect fit for Gruden's offense. I really do. He catches the underneath stuff and just adds a huge amount of yards after catch.
We are going to see an offense this year like we have not seen.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I still think though that Gruden's he's gonna run the ball a lot. He did come out and say that, but of course, they said they didn't like to take wide receivers in the first round, and they did. But I mean, I think they're still gonna try to run a lot. That's why they brought in Lynn Bowden, right?
Right. Yes.
Last year, defensive teams were loading 7 and 8 guys in the box because they knew what was coming. So now, if you have all these offensive weapons, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, but you can still run, and it makes it easier to run. So that's why he's going to want to run. But he was talking like 3 tight end packages. That's just the way he likes to do it. They like to run the ball. I mean, he had Gannon and he had Andre Rison and Tim Brown, and they still ran the ball. So I mean, he's still going to run the ball for sure.
Oh yeah, I don't expect that to go away. I think we've ended up with 2 really good ball carriers. 3 of them really, if you count Richard. But he's not anywhere close to the same level as Jacobs is. I'll be interested to see how Bowden does. Really interested. I'm so excited that we got him.
I was talking about Mariota coming in the red zone, and running an RPO offense in the red zone. I mean, Lynn Bowden, imagine him doing that, or him in the shotgun with Carr, and running those little handoffs, from the shotgun. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, a lot of people don't like the fact that Derek Carr checks down, but with the Lynn Bowden, you're checking down to Lynn Bowden, you're feeling good about that,
Well, here's the thing, too. If you bring in Bowden, the defenses don't have a chance to react to that. So now when you come in, are you covering Bowden as a running back? Are you covering him as a receiver? Are you covering him as a wildcat quarterback? You just don't know. So Bowden brings in a whole different dynamic. So if you have him on the field, that puts the pressure on the defenses to try to have the proper package to stop him.
It makes me think about Marcus Allen. Because he was good at throwing the ball out of the backfield, and Lynn Bowden played quarterback. I mean, he wasn't, I guess, the best passer, but I mean, all you need is the defense to bite and come up, and then have him just throw to Ruggs going over the top. I like that kind of stuff. I want to see a little bit of that out there too. Because a bubble screen can turn into something like a little jump pass or something. It might be creative. Because that's what they were talking about, is if you bring in Lynn Bowden, you can't get too one-dimensional where everybody's like, oh, it's going to be a trick play or something. I mean, of course, I'm saying do a trick play, but bring them up, make them think one trick play and go over their head. I kind of like that,
Yeah, and we've got a good line and good blockers down the field that could take a screen quite a ways.
And defenses know that. And then you can have something, come across like on a drag with Waller or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking,
I wouldn't discount him as a punt returner either.
No.
Yeah.
Moving on to what was a who moment of the draft with our 19th overall pick in round 1, we chose Damon Arnett. He's a cornerback out of Ohio State, 6 foot, 195 pounds. Now that I'm learning more and more about him, I think in total I'd read like one draft profile on him before the draft. But the more I've learned about him, the more I've researched him, the better I'm feeling about the pick. But I have to admit, my mouth dropped. I was scratching my head on this. What were you guys thinking?
Well, Christian Fulton was the guy that I had penciled in there. So when Arnett was announced, I was surprised, but I wasn't shocked because I knew about Arnett. So again, and this is one of those situations where I just had to kind of trust the process. You know how it is when a basketball player puts up a crazy 3-pointer and you say, no, no, no. And then it goes off the glass. You go, oh yeah, good shot. That's kind of how, that's kind of how I felt, because when the pick was made, I'm like, no, don't make that pick. And then when I really started looking at it closer, it's like, no, that was a good pick. Mayock got his guy. He got a football guy. He got a guy that's got that true toughness. But can lock down on that corner, and I really believe he knew what he was doing. If he'd had a 2nd round pick, I think that's what he would have targeted. But he didn't want Arnett to get away, so that's why he went in the 1st round.
Yeah, and teams weren't wanting to trade with us very much, so he knew that it would be difficult to move into that 2nd round to grab him. So he was kind of like what happened with Pharrell last year. Better safe than sorry. Let's grab him now.
Well, now Mayock did say that other teams had contacted them about possible trades, but the Raiders themselves did not initiate any trades. So I'm not sure exactly what came up, but apparently it wasn't enough to sweeten the pot.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the proposal was any good, though.
Yeah, but that's what I like about it is that, he came out and he said they were watching Ohio State film, they were watching Okudah, and then they noticed him. So, I mean, and they got the guy they wanted, and they didn't have to move. That's what I'm the most glad about is that, I wanted a wide receiver and a cornerback, and we got him, whatever order or who they are, whatever. As long as that they feel they're coming out and they feel comfortable that they got the guy that they wanted. And yeah, he reads well. The reports read well. It looks like, as long as he doesn't have to deal with any off-field issues, he should be able to play. He's, playing injured or with with a cast on his hand. I like all that. That's the kind of players that they're looking for. I thought it was a good pick. I'm glad that we did go for need right there because we need cornerbacks. If we're going to compete this year, and which is what I want to do, we need to fill the holes that we have, and they did that. And I thought it was a good 1st round. For
all the people who were really poo-pooing the pick, there's 2 things I want to say. Number one is remember the Raiders did not have a 2nd round pick. So again, you have to look at that. And then number 2, you get not only a corner who is tough, but there is aggressive open field tackling there. When's the last time we really had that dependably?
Yeah,
Charles Woodson.
And I would say what's also telling is for somebody who played opposite of Okudah, in 2019, he only allowed 25 receptions for a total of 306 yards. And his entire career at Ohio State, he had 27 passes defensed, which was 5 interceptions and 22 pass breakups. And there he had those 140 tackles in his entire career. That's pretty impressive, especially knowing that people are going to be picking on him.
He also had a 96-yard interception return for a touchdown. Now, that's a long way to run, and that lets you know that he's not going to be tracked down either.
I like they allowed 3 touchdowns
in
his career stat. That reminds me of Trayvon Mullen,
Exactly.
That's the kind of guy we need. Somebody that can, turn his head around, get his hand on the ball. It's not always about, getting an interception. It's about forcing the incomplete, and or keeping them out, when they're in the red zone. I'm curious how many of those, shutouts were in the red zone that he was a part of, And we need that, especially with not allowing touchdowns. We definitely need that. Too many times last year did we get killed in 1 quarter when a cornerback got burned. We need to, they did right, I think, by getting the best cornerback they thought was on the board,
And Mayock's been real good about coming out and saying, look, I got a football guy. So, I mean, there are some guys that are getting passed over who may be better athletes, but he's looking for football players.
like Lynn Bowden Jr.,
Right.
wide receiver, running back, quarterback, kick return. That's what they want. People that can come in and play. That's why he wants a wide receiver that can play 3 positions. They want offensive linemen that can switch from the right side to the left side and back, back if they have to. And that's what another reason they got Tanner Muse, right? Because think about it, like he can come in on the weak side in the run game, and then in the dime or whatever, he can drop back.
Yeah, he's very
That's
versatile
key.
too.
These are football players. Yeah, these are football players that they're drafting.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty telling that Dustin Fox, he reported something really interesting. He said, got a text from an NFL coach who had Damon Arnett rated as a top 10 player in the draft. So,
Yeah.
not a bad snag for somebody that a lot of people had never heard of. He just got overshadowed by Okuda.
Mayock got his guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And they were studying Okuda and saw him, and then they got the guy that they wanted. That's what I like the most, is that you felt confident, because they only made some moves like right in the third, and then in the later rounds, they got the guys they wanted. They had some offers, like you were saying, T3, but they stayed patient. Like you said, there was nothing that wowed them, and so they believed in their board. Like Mayock talks about believing in his board. And so I'm excited to see what happens.
We have a guy pulling the strings now who knows his shit.
Yeah.
And not just that, but like they said, does he fit, our model, right? They're looking, because Reggie, right, he went from coach after coach. He had to deal with all that. So he could never really draft for a system. But now, Gruden and Mayock, they got this real good chemistry together where they're drafting players for their, that fit their system, what they want to do. And it's exciting because, we could easily be in the Super Bowl in the next 2 years, right? They say that in 3 years, we'll know if this is a good draft. It's looking good. It looked like we filled holes that we needed, and we provided depth with some of these players that can play multiple positions.
Hey, last year it only took 1 year to know it was a good draft.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is like these guys, they don't really even have to come in right off and perform. Not every one of them like those guys did last year. So that's what's going to be great, man. Like Trayvon Mullen, I think he's going to be elite, and now you feel a lot better with him on one side and then than you did last year with Darryl Worley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Gary and Conley. So, I'm liking it. I think Mayock is, man, he's going to go down as one of the greatest Raiders of all time.
The Raiders have really done a good job pulling themselves out of a hole, because now if you look at it, and I'm not going to look at 2019 or 2018. We all know that 2019, we hit that draft out of the park. 2018 was not horrible, but not great. But if you look at 17, 16, 15, I'm going to lump these all together. All right, you had a total of those 3 drafts combined. Of those 3 drafts combined, you had a total of 26 picks. Of those 26 picks, 1 starter. I'll repeat that again. Of those 26 picks from 2017, 2016, and 2015, when you look at our roster now, no starters, 4 backups. Excuse me, one starter, 4 backups, and then the rest are either other teams or out of the league. You can't win like that.
That's why Gruden came in and blew that team up. A lot of people were upset, right? Because in 2016 we went to the playoffs, and then the next year, we felt like we should have been there, and then they traded everybody. But they didn't have the players that you need to win consistently. You know what I mean? Reggie was just kind of taking a chance. Like Jihad Ward. That was a terrible pick. Connor Cook. We could have had Dak Prescott. Just missing on stuff like that. DJ Hayden, right? That didn't work out at all.
Yeah, and Jihad Ward wasn't even that utterly terrible of a pick. He was a terrible pick for the coach that we had.
Yeah.
He left, and he has put up a few numbers, since he left us. He shouldn't have been taken where he was, but
right.
It just really showed the lack of insight that our front office had as far as drafting went. All right, so next on the list, guy that I'm really excited about, We did not have any picks in round 2, and we didn't move into round 2. But in round 3, overall pick number 80, we took Lynn Bowden Jr., and I put down his position as wide receiver, running back, quarterback, kick returner for Kentucky. He's 5'11" and 204 pounds. He is the true Swiss Army knife.
Hey, I had to admit it. At first, it was a head scratcher. I was like, another wide receiver, but at the same time, once they came out and they said that he was a running back and you start looking at his highlights, it's like, yeah, okay, cool. Because it is what we want. People that can play different positions, contribute in different areas, help us win games when somebody's having a hard time getting open or somebody needs to step up. These guys that can play different positions and move all over the field are what we need.
Yeah, and he really played different positions. This past year, in 2019, he won the Paul Hornig Award as the nation's most outstanding all-purpose player. That is pretty impressive. And I remember the first time I heard of him was in a viral highlight film that came out, I think, the start of the last NFL season. And it's a high school film of him in to punt. And it was a bad snap. So he muffed the snap in the end zone, and he ended up taking it to the house. And that was the first time I ever saw him play. And it was just incredible. There were some really great blocks in there from his teammates, but he was just electrifying.
I'm excited because of the ceiling. I see such a high ceiling, and when you put him on the field, like I mentioned, if you actually get him on the field, the defenses now have to scratch their head. Okay, do I have to play him as a running back, a receiver, a quarterback, and that. But just by disrupting the packages that defenses are able to put on the field, you get the advantage right there.
Yeah, they won't know what to do. And he can, like I said, coming out of the backfield, imagine him coming out of the backfield, or just running out there and lining up in the slot, in a 2 tight end package or something like that, and kick returns too. Or like I said, in the red zone, I want to see what they're going to do in the red zone, with these guys that can run like a Mariota and a Lynn Bowden, it's interesting. This is going to be an interesting year, especially with, there's not going to be a whole lot of training camp is what they're saying. So, it's just going to be an interesting year, I guess, to say, I don't know.
We'll just have to wait and see. But this is a truly year where we're going to have to trust the players to do right by themselves and to stay in shape before we get them together, because this is unlike any year we've ever seen before. You draft the players, it's like, okay, come on in, and we'll start to work. Can't do that now.
Yeah. Well, the one thing is I did like about Mike Mayock, what he said was, we're going to teach him how to be a running back. And so it sounds like they're not going to overwhelm him with too much versatile play right away. Because you wouldn't want to, set him back by having him try to bite off too much and, choke while he's trying to swallow. So I like the way they're approaching it, but they also know that they've got themselves a really versatile weapon who makes big plays and he's ready to go.
I could see a lot of Wildcat formations next year. Maybe not a lot, but at least some.
Well, like I said, in the red zone, that's what I'm thinking. You take advantage of that stuff, inside the 10-yard line, especially, Josh Jacobs and a Lynn Bowden or even a Marcus Mariota, that's a very, exciting thing to see, to think about.
What I found really impressive when I looked at actually, I think it was his junior year, his last year, which was 2019. His stats are beyond crazy. He had 1,468 rushing yards on 185 carries, 7.9 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns. But that's not all. He also led Kentucky in receiving. 30 receptions for 300 and some yards, 348, 46, something like that, and 1 touchdown. He did that all in the first 5 starts to begin the year. Well, he also played the last 8 games as a quarterback. Plus, he was a kick returner. He finished in the top 5 nationally in all-purpose yards. That just really makes me excited to see what he's going to bring. Really excited.
Oh yeah.
I might be most excited about this pick, really. He might be my favorite one. Last year, my favorite one was Max Crosby, but that's because my dad's name was Max. I was biased.
He lives up to the hype.
Yeah, no, I mean we definitely need that we needed the extra running back, after losing Washington,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like I said though, last year our wide receiving group, they dealt with a lot of injuries, so Bolden can go do that if he had to.
Yeah.
Or if Carr gets hurt, right, then we got a guy that can step in that is versatile and can play the offense that's backing up Mariota and kick off returns. Those special teams, like he's going to be contributing on special teams first and foremost. So the fact that he can do that is a great thing too. Especially because Damon Harris, right? He's not going to be there anymore. Now that we got this guy, so young, fast, smart, right? I mean, if you're playing all that many positions, you got to know the game,
right?
So yeah, Gruden. They were saying, right? They tested him, and he was just bouncing back with all the verbiage and everything. So he got his guy. I would like to have seen him in like a Gruden quarterback camp or something. Pick his brain.
And how's this for a Raider? His final game in his college career was the Belk Bowl. He was the MVP. He rushed for 233 yards on 34 carries. And he completed 6 of 12 passes for 73 yards, an interception, and the game-winning touchdown in the last 15 seconds. But to top it all off, to really say Raider, he also got into a fight before the game. I think that just means he belongs with us.
Well, we don't want him fighting in the locker room. We want him, leaving it on the field. But, hey, at least he's got some passion,
Yeah, well, there was a scout that said, I really didn't mind seeing that. I liked seeing that dog in him.
We need more dogs.
As long as you can control it.
I'll take dogs. I love dogs. I got a German Shepherd.
We don't need a Michael Crabtree incident,
No.
over the necklace again. We don't need anything like that.
No, but I do like the grittiness. I do like that. All right, so moving on to something completely different from the previous picks. We went with another wide receiver. Round 3, pick 81. Brian Edwards, wide receiver out of South Carolina. This is the big body one that Homer wanted. 6'3", 212 pounds. Tell us about him, Homer.
I'm just going to read what you wrote, okay?
Okay.
It was
cheater.
He was initially offered a scholarship. Oh, man, you're killing it today because you wrote all this out. But yeah, I'm going to just steal a little bit of your thunder.
All right.
He was initially offered a scholarship by South Carolina when he was just 13 years old. Athlete, right? He was dominating Pee Wee football.
Yeah.
Of course, good height, length, and strength and speed. 4-year starter at South Carolina. Had a foot injury this year that could have affected his draft stock. Should be healthy by June. Uses his size well and is not afraid of getting hurt. Could prove to be a red zone weapon. I think that's why you need a big body. Somebody that you could throw the ball high to and he can catch it in the back of the end zone. That's something that I was excited about. Was used frequently as a screen target and showcased good field vision to break loose. That's that screen makes me go back and think about Pooper. That Pooper was real good at that. So we need that back in the offense. Somebody that can make that happen. The screens.
I was familiar with this guy before the draft even started, and I got to tell you, when they announced this pick at 81, I was downright giddy because again, we're talking about a big physical possession receiver. We're talking about a red zone nightmare matchup. And again, he went right where he was projected. But if you all get a chance, go onto YouTube. If you want to see a one-handed catch that'll either blow the OBJ catch out of the water. He had a one-handed catch against Tennessee last year that will just blow your freaking mind.
That's what Homer likes. He likes that OBJ factor.
Hey, I mean, you got to have those guys that can catch the ball with one hand and not lose any momentum. You know, you need guys that can make plays like that. And Derek Carr can't throw a perfect ball every time. No quarterback does. Mm-hmm. You got to have wide receivers that can help out the quarterback, you know. So that's important. But it says here on your list that drops are an issue. So, you know, hopefully he works that out. Fair route runner, but needs some work. You know, so here's all the negatives, right? Questionable separation ability. You know, it could develop into a number 2. That's something I did not want to read, you know, when I was first looking at this, is that we already have a number 2. We already got Tyrell Williams.
I'll take over for him.
And then this guy, you know. Yeah, but it's shaky injury history. Same thing, you know, current broken foot. What's up with wide receivers and feet these days as far as the Raiders, you know?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think that this will be Tyrell Williams' last year in a Raider uniform coming up.
Oh, well, I mean, it looks like they drafted this guy to replace him.
I could be wrong, but I think this will be his last season in silver and black. Now, you know, maybe he goes out and bowls out and makes that not a reality. But, again, I'm just making a prediction here.
Well, I know that the contract that we have with him is very team-friendly. That initially on paper, when you said it out loud, sounded like a really great contract for the wide receiver. But you know, we could get out of it without losing very much money at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, what's the cap guy's name? The one that stayed over from Reggie's crew?
Delaney.
I mean, that's what it's all about is, you know, giving yourself, you know, an out as a team. It's always nice, you know, when you have players that love the Raiders and all things like that, but not every player's like that. And as a team, you got to watch out for the team, you know, so a lot of these guys they're out to get, you know, whatever buck they can and put themselves before the team. So, yeah, you got to have a contract guy that can help you out for things like this. You know, you got this Brian Edwards that could come in and replace him, and we could save that money. You know, there's talk about trading, you know, Gabe Jackson to save money on the salary cap. But, you know, you got Brian Edwards now to replace Tyrell Williams, like you're saying, if he doesn't make it past this year.
The one thing that I found impressive about Edwards that really caught my attention were his career numbers at South Carolina. He has the 3rd most receptions and 4th most receiving yards in SEC history. That's not a conference to sneeze at. Pretty impressive. I'm easily impressed.
And he's the all-time leader in career receptions and career receiving yards in South Carolina. And there have been some pretty good receivers coming out of South Carolina. Sterling Sharp and Alshon Jeffrey, and pretty good pedigree there.
Yeah. And we ended up with our 3rd pick in round 3. It wasn't the original one that we had. We traded back from 91 to pick 100, but we ended up with Tanner Muse, and he played as a safety at Clemson. He's 6'2", 229 pounds, but we will be developing him into a linebacker for the Raiders. He is another one that's very versatile. He's intelligent.
Yeah.
He can recognize plays quickly. He's super fast. Had a 4.41 40-yard dash at the combine. And he recorded a 120-inch broad jump. So, you know, a little bit of freakish athleticism, freakish intellectualism. I'm happy.
Big, fast, and can tackle. It's exactly what we need, you know, to stop the Chiefs. Especially on the weak side. Right now, man, our linebacking core is looking really good, right? It's looking really, really good. You know, and it's this is something that we've been needing for a long time to be able to stop these tight ends around the league that have been killing us. It's a great linebacking core. And now we're set for like the next 3 years on paper. But yeah, I love it that he can drop back and play safety too. I mean, that's key. You know, another guy that if somebody we had safety injuries at the safety position last year. Another guy that if called on can step back and, you know, step up and fill in a hole or fill in a, you know, a position that we need him to and play well. Yeah, he could hit. You know, I was looking at his highlights. I was really happy with what I saw.
I am good. I am good with this pick. I have no issue with it whatsoever.
Except, I mean, we keep going to that Clemson well.
Nothing wrong with that. They seem to have a pretty good program there.
Homer, I got to tell you though, as we were getting down into the third round, and I kept seeing Bradley and Nye on the board, I kept telling myself, I know Homer's about to just blow a gasket right now.
Oh, me too. Did he finally go, or did he go undrafted free agent?
He went in round 5.
Okay.
I had him projected in round 2.
Yeah, somebody got a steal with him.
I did want to mention one thing. It was pretty funny. When we got down to this part, I did a mock the night before the draft, and at 91, where we picked Tanner Muse, the person that I had as picking at that spot was Amik Robertson, and that turned out to be the only guy in my whole mock draft that the Raiders actually picked.
I really liked that pick too. I gotta say, I liked all the picks.
Yeah,
I really did. But anyway, so Tanner is he had a very strong college career, and he is expected to come in and contribute on special teams immediately while he develops as a linebacker. Probably not going to be a safety very much in the NFL, but he is capable of playing the position. So I'm looking forward to seeing him.
and that's going to take some of the pressure off that linebacking core as well.
Yeah, give it a little bit of depth, which we haven't had in how many years?
I think he's going to start.
Not to start.
I mean, who do you got? Who are you going to put on the weak side? You got rid of Whitehead.
You got
put
Lee, you got
Lee
Morrow.
Morrow?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd rather take my chances with this guy.
Well, you'd be starting somebody who didn't play linebacker in college.
It depends on what packages Gunther puts together.
Yeah, Matt Millen was a defensive lineman when he came into the league. So I mean, and that's what I mean. He's a smart player, right? Because he can play multiple positions. It's not like he's gonna have a hard time understanding it. It's just he's got to get used to the speed, but he's got enough speed on his own.
I could see them converting him to a linebacker, to an outside linebacker.
Well, that's what they said. That's what Mayock was saying, that he sees him as on the weak side.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's the last hole. So yeah, I think that's a good pick. I was gonna say he played 59 career games. That's an Iron Man. That's what we need too. We dealt with all those injuries. And not only is he an Iron Man, but he can play multiple positions if somebody else gets hurt.
Yeah, 59 games and 237 career tackles. Wow.
It's a tackling machine.
Yeah. 15
passes broken up, 7 INTs. He's got hands. Forced fumbles, always ripping at the ball. He can. I haven't seen the return, the fumble return. But he can. That's what we need on our defense. Is guys taking the ball away and scoring.
He's had a 102-yard interception return for a touchdown, and that forced fumble return.
Oh, I didn't even see the shot.
And that forced fumble return, a 63-yard fumble return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And
playmakers.
Yeah, and that was over almost 2,000 snaps, 1,921 snaps.
Man, this to me, this one looks like Tanner. He looks like he's gonna be the most valuable pick, I would think. Being able to play special teams, multiple positions. I would think this is our sleeper pick or a sneaky pick or a steal of the draft. Tanner is.
What Mayock did was he got him a Swiss Army knife on offense and a Swiss Army knife on defense, all in round 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mayock, man. What a GM.
Yeah. And so that brings us down to round 4. We had 2 picks in round 4. First one was pick 109. And with that, we picked up John Simpson, offensive guard. And guess where he went to school?
Clemson?
Clemson.
Yay, I got it right.
All right, now I gotta jump up on my soapbox on this one. You remember last week when I told you all to keep an eye on a guy named Solomon Kinley, a guard out of Georgia, and I said that this would be the spot where he would be picked at a guard position, and he was in the mold of Richie Incognito to come in and be molded by Richie himself, and they ended up picking a guard at this spot, John Simpson from Clemson, who actually is a better grade than Solomon Kinley. And I was kind of validated by that pick because Solomon Kinley was picked 2 picks later.
Nailed it. That's pretty close to nailing it right there.
I almost had it. Almost.
Yep.
You know what I learned in this draft? That I would make a terrible GM. Because I didn't get anything right.
Most of us would.
Except that we would draft a cornerback and a wide receiver in the first round. That's about it.
But you know who you would do better than as a GM?
Who?
Reggie McKenzie.
Oh, no, not even. No, Reggie, he just. I think, like I said earlier, his biggest problem is he didn't have a coach that was there consistently for him to draft players for, and so he was just reaching.
I really liked Reggie as a person, but as a GM, he was just overmatched. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't really have a whole lot of direction, and he was hindered by the fact that he had a lot of inflated, bloated contracts to have to deal with, and he had to jettison a lot of that stuff. So he didn't have much to work with to begin with. So I think he was in the hole to begin with, but he just didn't have the time or the resources to be able to dig his way out.
But Mayock is killing it though. And here we are, round 4, pick 109, John Simpson. T3 was just bragging about how he called us getting a guard at that spot. So back to that, right? Good. He's strong and athletic, good technique, but can be slow off the snap. I mean, I guess that's coachable, right? Does, however, accelerate into first contact. Good with scoop blocks, pulls, second level climbs, and screen blocking. Now, the pulls is what tells me that this is the guy they think is going to replace Gabe Jackson, because Gabe is great at pulling. And I think he was out there on the screens. So I think mostly it was Hudson that was pulling out on those screens. But Gabe was really good at pulling. And so hopefully,
What better guy to coach you up than Richie Incognito?
I mean, Gabe Jackson. Gabe's been, he's been doing it well. He stays out of trouble, But I mean, Richie learned how to overcome, all the shit that he overcame, in his years in the league. So I guess he could, teach him how to, be professional, and work through mistakes. But yeah, learning how to block like a nasty dog. Yeah. And Tom Cable's going to have a big hand in that too.
Yeah, at this stage of his career, I think Richie knows he needs to pass that knowledge on to somebody else. I mean, he's still a viable starter, but in 17 years, those bumps and bruises add up.
And I think Richie has gotten to the point in his career where he's able to do that mentally. He's ready to do that. He's ready to be some kind of a mentor, as crazy as that might sound to some people. But to be that kind of mentor and pass it on.
When he was with Miami, he never would have done that.
Right.
He's gotten a second lease on life. He's in good shape now.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'm all for it. I just hope that because we definitely need to replace Richie. I would think before Gabe it would be Richie, but Gabe's been on the trade block, so maybe that's not where they're going. They feel good with good there, But yeah, it's good that they drafted a guard, especially 6'4", 321. Strong, athletic, coming out on the pulls, helping out on screens, 34 bench reps. Man, that's good.
That's strong.
The trouble holding, or trouble with holding and false start penalties. I think that can be coached out of them. I'm not too worried about that. 29 of a possible 30 games. Another Iron Man, another guy that steps in and plays consistently every game. Right? The best ability is what?
Availability. Thank you, Q.
Right. So, we got two guys that have played a lot of football in the later picks with Tanner Muse and John Simpson.
All right. And T3, you want to introduce Amik
Robertson from Louisiana Tech. He is 5'8", 190. He has a 4.45 40. He's compact. He's power packed. He's got a frame that's in line with running back more than corner. Now, the thing I like about him is that he has got a lot of athleticism, and he's going to be able to break on the balls in the middle. So you've got somebody who is going to be that be that nickel, be that guy who can be the disruptor in the middle for those crossing routes. He has enough athleticism to be able to handle his own receiver and then sneak a peek at the quarterback and then immediately break off to lead his primary assignment if the ball's headed somewhere else. Again, that's something that you just can't teach. True football instincts. He may be small, but I think this quickness is really going to help out in the secondary and cover that middle area of the field that we had so much trouble covering last year.
Yeah, and he's a ball hawk. 3 years of Louisiana Tech, and he had 14 interceptions.
And 48 pass defenses.
Those are some big numbers.
5'8", though. 5'8", though. That's going to be rough in the NFL. You know, that was the knock on Carl Joseph. You know, he could lay the wood, but he was just too small. You know, of course, Carl Joseph was playing safety, and this guy looks like he's going to be a slot cornerback. So
yeah, he's going to be more slot.
He could definitely do. Yeah, he could survive, but damn, that's small.
He's small, but he's solid. 187 pounds, good size. Good weight and good force behind him for being that vertically challenged.
I just like the speed and the instincts for those receivers coming across the middle. That's one of those things where he could come out of nowhere. He could look at the quarterback and be able to leave his receiver, come out from out of nowhere and make that big play and either break up the pass or get an interception. And again, to be able to have that quickness to leave your primary assignment and then be a disruptor, that's something you just can't coach that.
I mean, I know they like him. They were raving about him, you know. But man, that's you know, I'm a short guy, so fingers crossed, you know. Good luck, Amik Robertson.
That's my guy. When he was there available at 139, I was thinking, wow, he was still on the board. I couldn't believe it.
Man, I need to watch more college football and pay closer attention to whatever articles and websites y'all are going to.
That's one of my weaknesses, though. I don't have the passion for college football. I'll watch it, you know.
At all.
I mean, I'll watch it if nothing else is on, but unless it's Fresno State, I just don't care.
Well, thank God we got T3 over here saving our ass.
I'm a college football nerd.
Good.
Sounds like it.
I've focused my nerdum on Raiderhood.
Okay, well, that too. That's suitable.
All right, and that will bring us to, let's see. We're going to have a little segment today. It's going to be T3's own segment. And it's going to be live. It's not going to be a phone call. He is live and in person.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Hit it,
All
T3.
Right. This is going to make you laugh. This is T3 Raider Facts with this week's version of Heidi's High Five. Number 1, in honor of Henry Ruggs III's selection by the Raiders, I am actually wearing a bathrobe right now. Maybe that's a little too much information, but I'm truly excited about having a guy that you just won't be able to catch. Let's see the Kansas City Defenders try and cover that guy. Now, if you think about it, Kansas City now has 4 games where they have to defend either Ruggs or Jerry Jeudy. I say the Chiefs take a step back this year, although they're still the leader in the division. Number 2, people have been trashing the Damon Arnett pick. But Mayock knows what he wants, and he did not have a second-round pick this year. With Arnett, you get experience, toughness, route recognition, aggressive open field tackling, and the ability to switch off downfield. These are all things that were missing last year. Number 3, Brian Edwards might just be the sleeper pick of this draft. He earned second-team All-SEC honors and holds South Carolina's school record for both receptions and receiving yards. And as I mentioned, there have been a lot of good SC receivers over the years. He's a true big-bodied red zone threat, and I can't wait to see what he can do. Number 4, when the number 109 pick rolled around and I was looking at the offensive line, I really thought they might pull the trigger on Georgia guard Solomon Kinley, who I mentioned last week and earlier in the podcast. But Mayock went with a Clemson guy instead who was actually rated higher. Oh, and by the way, Kinley was picked 2 spots after that, so I didn't miss it by much. Number 5, last week, I made a prediction that the Raiders would bring in at least 1 defensive end after the draft. Well, here are 2 guys, and here are 2 names. They haven't been picked up yet. One is Olawale Batiku out of Illinois, and also a small school guy I really like. who actually reminds me a lot of Mad Max Crosby. Keep an eye out for this guy. Montana State's Bryce Sterk, Sterk. And that, my friends, is this week's version of Heidi's High Five.
All right. Thank you, T3. Another excellent version. Be sure to catch T3 on his own podcast over on YouTube. It's the Raider Roots Podcast. His name is T3 Sports Guy over there. And episode 7 of the Raiders Roots Podcast is up now. It covers 1964 in Raider history.
And we're working on 2 separate episodes right now for 1965. One is going to cover the television contract for the AFL, and the other covers the action on the field for 1965.
And I like your show because it's bite-sized. You know, so much. A team like the Raiders have so much history, it could be overwhelming, especially for somebody that isn't that familiar with it. There's just so much to know. And you keep your podcast, 15, 20 minutes, and they're just the right size for the amount of information you bring.
Well, I enjoy doing it. And as I mentioned earlier to Homer, I enjoy doing it because there is no other organization that has so many good stories as Raiders.
And that brings us to the most fantastic part of the show.
Yeah.
Let's just call it
It's time for you to sing
Heidi's Heroes.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
All right, here we go. Once again, parts of this segment were lifted straight off of Raiders.com. The Raiders have a long and rich history of working with Special Olympics and its athletes. The Healthy Athletes program provides health services and education for Special Olympics athletes to perform at their best, both on and off the playing field. It promotes a healthy lifestyle, which is critical to these athletes' success. This past week, the Raiders worked with the Healthy Athletes program in a virtual manner. Punter A.J. Cole shared his at-home workout tips to stay in performance shape while being unable to compete during this quarantine. He also discussed with them the importance of staying healthy during the off-season. After leading the athletes in the at-home workout, Cole participated in a question and answer segment. They talked about favorite quarantine activities, recipes, healthy foods, and how to keep a positive mindset. While there were other Raiders who performed worthwhile acts this past week, it's not hard to see why AJ is my hero. Thanks, AJ.
That's awesome. I like seeing that. Special Olympics is something that's pretty important. My brother was mentally handicapped, so I always I always appreciated when people would do things for him, and help him out. So that's cool to see this, and the Raider Nation, as I've said many times during this segment, is all about giving back to the community. And even Special Olympics and things like that too. Kaylee McLaughlin, she's autistic. She has her Be Kind to Kaylee show, and the Raider Nation shows up to support her. She's a huge Raider fan. You should check her out and help her out.
Yeah, she's such a sweet girl.
For her polar plunge. Yeah. So it's nice to see that our team just continues to do great things for the community. Special Olympics, Renfro right there. We're going to the schools earlier this year and helping out with lunches and stuff. So, it's nice to see, our team doing great things.
And I think the Vegas area already appreciates the impact that the Raiders have made in their short time affiliated with the city. And they're continuing to do that. The players reach out and embrace community things. The coaches have as well. Even the Raiderettes. This is something that's far reaching and the Raiders have instantly taken hold of the whole state of Nevada very quickly.
Well, that's a good thing, because we're a worldwide brand, so we want to be able to, hold it down at home, right? Take care of home, go back and then spread that out throughout the world and represent the Raiders the way it should be.
Yeah. That's one thing the Raiders are known for, just being fantastic people. They might look scary. It might look tough, but dang, we're going to help you. If we can help you, we're going to help you.
Our association already with Las Vegas, I think, is going to totally transform the image of Raider Nation among many people, not just in our country, but worldwide as well. A lot of us who are devoted to it anyway, we know, and we know the people that dress up in the costumes and the scariness and everything. We get that, but again, I think people are going to start viewing Raider Nation in a whole different light now.
Well, let me say one thing. Anybody that's maybe intimidated by the people that are wearing those scary outfits, rest assured that those people are some of the people that are giving back the most to communities, their community, special needs communities, feeding the homeless. All those guys that wear those scary masks are doing good things like the players do. So, yes, the Raider Nation image does need to be repaired because in the mainstream media has labeled us as a bunch of badasses, and some of us are. Some of us are out there effing it up for the rest of us, but for the most part, those guys are doing a lot of good things.
And you can be a badass and still be an awesome person.
Yeah, like Wayne Mabry, he talks about, physically looking intimidating, but having enough layers that on the inside you're giving back to the community and taking care of people that are in need, and that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, T3, for joining us on this episode. It's been another good one.
Thank you. I look forward to doing this again.
We might just have to have you back again, I don't know, next week.
I will be here.
All right.
Yeah, somebody's got to crunch the numbers.
And thanks again to our listeners for joining us on the Only Nation podcast. Be sure to listen to the next week episode where we will be covering who we signed as undrafted free agents, and we'll probably be getting into more Raiders news.
So be sure to call us, Raider Nation, and leave us a voicemail, giving us your opinion at 904-701-8667. 904-701-8667. You can email us at the Only Nation Podcast at gmail.com, and make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Only Nation Pod. And please subscribe to the Only Nation Podcast on YouTube. All right, Raider Nation. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
All right. Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
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 Raiders.